Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I want to start with the town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. And with that, I'd like to call the committee of the whole meeting for July 22nd, call it to order. First off, we look to adopt the agenda. Committee, is there any additions or deletions to this afternoon's agenda? Your Nissa.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair of the committee, I'd like to seek consensus to amend the agenda to add item 7.2 recall survey to closed session per section 26 of the ATIA, if I can speak to it. So council, I forwarded you all a email from Alberta Munis on recommendations on recalled municipal elected officials. And this came about because there is an open survey currently from the ministry on the regulations for the recalled municipal elected officials. The survey is meant to be done by either myself or the CAO or as council as a group. And so I've put this amendment forward. We have two options as a council. We can talk about this formally and complete the survey in closed session during committee today. Or if council's not interested in discussing this formally, I can do it informally myself after the fact with any councilors that want to take part. So that is what this vote is for. And if there's any discussion, I will vote based on what council's attitude is on this one. I'm not privy to one direction or the other. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Anderson. All right, so committee, we have a seeking consensus to amend the agenda to add 7.2 recall survey to closed session for section 26 of ATIA. Is there any discussion? We'll call that the question. Please vote no. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Committee, anything else to add or delete from this evening's agenda or this afternoon's agenda? Seeing none, administration.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing from administration.
Okay, thank you. Committee then, we look to adopt. Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to move that we adopt the amended agenda for the committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Chambers, we have a motion to committee adopt the agenda as amended. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, then we'll call the question. Please vote then. And that too is carried unanimously. All right, Madam Secretary, do we have any community announcements at this time? Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to our reports from administration. 4.1 social media use policy AD-1205. And I'll hand that over to Tina Vanessa.
Thank you, Chair, and I will pass this along to Mr. Reagan.
Okay.
Good afternoon, committee. You have before you today the draft revised social media use policy. The revision of the social media use policy was part of the tactical plan. It's also due to be renewed every 3 years or so. The updated policy outlines a consistent approach to our use of social media and clearly outlines the roles and responsibilities of employees who use town social media.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dragon. Committee, any questions on this this report? Any recommendations? He's cold. Councilor Static.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to seek consensus that committee refer the social media use policy AD-1205 to a future regular meeting of the council as presented.
Thank you, Councilor Stachek. Want to speak to it or? Nope. Okay. All right, so we have a motion the committee refer the social media use policy AD 1205 to a future regular meeting of council as presented. Mayor Nissen.
Thank you. Through the chair to committee and administration, I'm gonna be in support of the motion on the floor as it is. But to administration, I just want to say good work on this policy. It's quite cleaned up from the policy that we had before that was quite outdated, and I really like the use of the authorization request forms. It's very clear. I like the terms of use. This is good work. So thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor Nissen. I myself, I too, that authorization request form is something new. And I think that will really clean up things and make sure messages are clear. So really appreciate that. You know, it'll make a big difference. So thank you. Committee, any other comments or questions for this report? Seeing none, then we're going to call the question, the committee refer the social media use policy AD 1205 to a future regular meeting of council as presented. Please vote now. It is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, committee. Moving on then to 4.2, public participation policy AD 1209. And again, Ms. Yucha.
So you have before you today the draft revised public participation policy. The public participation policy is a legally required policy. This is another one that was identified in the technical plan to be reviewed as part of this term as well. We have made some updates to this. It says here in the report that, you know, as the public requests more involvement in municipal decision-making, it's really important to have a robust public participation policy. And we feel this version does that. And I can answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And through the chair to administration, this one's not anything more than a typo. But in section 8.7, under 8.7.1, it lists pop-us stands instead of pop-up stands. And I'm sure that's not a needed amendment and it'll be fixed by the time this comes back, but I want to mention that right off the bat.
Thank you, Mayor Nissen. I myself, I really like the template, you know, the yes and no. Is that something we've always done or is that something new?
Not formally, it's something that, you know, project leads would work with communications to see what kind of public participation needs they would need for their project, but it's not something that we've had formally in writing as a tool to use at the beginning of every project.
Okay, but that's what we'll be doing from this one forward was, yeah, okay, excellent, thank you. Councilor Chambers.
Yeah, I just wanna say, I enjoyed it too, I like the template, the go, no go, I think is really. It's nice and clean for anyone that wants to kind of understand what level of engagement, why certain decisions may have been made or may not have been made, and what that looks like. So I think it's nice to have it there because it's clear that it's not just with someone's opinion, they don't think it's gonna do certain things, like it keeps it nice and clean, and yeah, I think it's really good work and really breaks it down, and I think there's a lot of people that are talking about everywhere, not just about, you know, that ability to be involved or when they should be involved or who determines what the impact is, so I think this is a really crisp and clean way to move that ahead, so happy to read it.
Mayor Nissen.
Thank you. Through the chair to administration, we just went through a big round of public hearings last week. Where we got a lot of public participation. It was really great to see, and you know, I put some of that public participation on comms for getting the message out there that we're in fact doing these things. A big improvement from some of the things that we saw even last year. That being said, around the participation of the public for our public hearing, I have a few concerns around our communications, and most specifically when the public is making submissions to our processes. And I think I've been getting this feedback still even across Hinton Listens, but it was really obvious in the public hearing process where submissions were being emailed to counselors, to development services, to infrastructure services, to individual team members in the town. I would like to see something where maybe we have a catch-all address for public hearings, that the public has a very definitive submission place for that counselors and anyone else can forward to. But in addition to that, I'd also like to see the public get some really better responses about their submissions actually being received. And this is an example. So I got a submission that I forwarded on to Development Services on behalf of the resident, and the response I got back was, thank you for your email. We are in our busy season, so our reply may be delayed up to 2 days. If you've emailed us and your matter is of high or critical nature, please call us directly at a phone number so that we can evaluate your service level. We're happy to help. That's not the best public response or the best automated response for somebody making a public hearing submission that's gonna happen next week. It's a fine response for somebody that's maybe trying to access development services. So with all of that being said, I'd really like to see some either policies or procedures around some of our public communications around submissions, especially around this public participation policy. And I'm wondering, maybe the CEO is the right person to ask this question. Is that something that we would add into this public participation policy, or would that be a different policy or procedure somewhere else?
Through the chair, the members of the committee, I don't believe that change would necessarily be incorporated into this policy or really any of our policy, because they're more intended to be more high level documents. But we have discussed that very thing, so we do plan on implementing that, and I think we could take it as a suggestion to implement for next time, because I do think it is a good idea. And I also think it makes it much cleaner for staff not to be mingling a legislative public hearing process with all of the other things that they have on their desk. So I don't think it's necessary to include in the policy, but we'll take that and run with it as administration.
Okay, would you need any sort of direction from committee to be able to do that?
Through the chair, nope, we've already talked about it, and we intend to do that for our next public hearing.
Excellent.
Thank you. Ms. Walker?
May I just have one comment? Yes, I understand what you're saying, and that was probably an oversight on our part, because that's just our general message. However, I do want you guys to know that every submission that came through Development Services, Vanessa forwarded to me right away, and I responded to each and every single one to say thank you for your submission. It will be included in the public hearing package, right? So they did get that another response as well. But yes, I do like your idea of having a sort of a generic spot for public hearing submissions, and they all go in the pot, and then they're not, like you said, they're not vented to all different people and multiple people and stuff like that.
Thank you. Councillor Stashik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would strongly support the type of dedicated public hearing feedback portal. I've, not in this last round, but previous to that, I've had citizens express concerns to me that the emails that they sent to council expressing their concerns about a upcoming public hearing didn't form part of the public hearing. And I've had to apologize to them and say, I apologize, I did not realize that you thought you were submitting this so that it was part of the public hearing. I thought you were just expressing your concerns in general. So knowing that, I would have informed you the correct way to make sure that it becomes part of the public hearing. But that would be so much simpler if there was a dedicated portal for the public hearings and it was widely publicized, and then citizens who want to make sure that their thoughts form part of the public hearing would know exactly how to submit it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, and to Councillor Stashik's point, having an auto response or response with details about the public hearing, I think would be a big benefit. There was a lot of confusion in this last round, and we had 6 public hearings. But to some of the submissions, I suspect an automated response that clearly outlined that Arif Park wasn't part of the public hearing process might have saved a few people some stress, so. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So, any other questions on the action item or the sort of report on the public participation policy? Or any recommendations? Or, sorry, Mayor Wilson?
Well, I'd like to take the recommended action, committee directed administration to bring the draft public participation policy AD 1209 to a future meeting of council as presented.
Thank you, Mayor Nissen. Committee, we have direction that committee directs administration to bring the draft public participation policy AD 1209 to a future meeting of council as presented. Any comments, questions on the direction? Seeing none, then I will call the question. Please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Great. Next up, we have non-principal short-term rental planning regulations. And see open house.
Thank you. I will over to Mr. McLaughlin or Ms. Walker.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chair, through to council. Yes, this report is before you this evening, coming out of some suggested, it's coming out of some motions from council, including that the administration look at some planning regulations around principal short-term rentals, how we can perhaps get them into the land use bylaw in order to better regulate the short-term rentals. And with that, we did hire our consultant in BizTech, and they prepared a really robust report with regards to looking at other municipalities and comparing what regulations they have in comparison to Hinton. And as you can see, that the chart is in there for you as well in the report. And I do want to say, in the report, they did identify that there were some inconsistencies between our Granicus AI software, which you probably noticed in the report. And since that time, the report was completed on the 29th of April. In May, we updated all our information with Granicus software to ensure that we're in alignment now with what we have registered at the town of Hinton and what they have on their website. We've also provided some options for you to look at for consideration into implementing some sort of planning regulations in the land use bylaw. Now the report identifies that there are some simple things we can do just to do for clarification in all the bylaws, the land use bylaw, the business license bylaw, and the fees and schedules bylaw, in order to have them all be consistent and have the same terminology. So by putting in definitions into the land use bylaw that clearly identify what a short-term rental is, and both what a principal short-term rental and a non-principal short-term rental are, sets us up for in future, should we ever want to regulate them or allow them in specific land use districts. If we are finding that they're clustering into this, whatever district, whether it's higher density or lower density. However, the report does state that really they're kind of scattered all over the municipality. There's not really any one location that is just identifiable as like, this is where all the houses are being brought up, right? And then also in what they recommend is looking at the parking regulations, because right now we don't identify specific parking for short-term rentals. So that would be something else we'd add into the land use bylaw. Further, we did come up with some additional options. One being that we can place caps maybe and limit how many non-principal short-term rentals are in different districts of our town, or we could again allow them in only specific zonings in our land use bylaw, or we can also reconsider the cap that council had put on non-term or non-principal short-term rentals. I think we're at 130, so that was the cap, but we're at 42 that are actually registered, as you can see here. And 5 in the process as well that are non-compliant, but we haven't got the influx that I think that we anticipated in the beginning, when we started this process. So that kind of, will wrap it up for you. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Walker. Committee, any questions for this report? I have myself, how confident are we that there is only 42 non-principals and 5 that are non-compliant? How confident are we with our contractors that that's accurate? And the reason I ask is because we keep getting input from the community that they seem to think there's a lot more than that. That there's a lot more non-principals than what is listed. So do we know for certain, for sure, that that's the case?
Well, thank you, Chair, through to council. Yes, before, as I was writing the report, I did go into our database and, cross-referenced every parcel that's non-principal and against what we have registered. And what happens is, I think when you go onto those sites like Airbnb and it says, oh my God, Hinton has 200 and something on, or sorry, just short-term rentals in general. They're lumping in everything from, of course, the principal ones, plus, Granicus, our software company, also picks up, because they're picking up everything, so they're picking up hotels and motels are now putting, registering on Airbnbs and VRBOs and stuff, so that, which is just a hotel, so that's, we don't regulate commercial. Also, there's some that are RV, from RV campgrounds, so they have like RV vehicles and stuff that are for rent. Now, if we do find one that's on a residential district, which has happened, then those are the ones that we obviously need to follow up on, because they're in residential districts and they're not permitted. We have had a couple of those. Some other ones that have come up are, which is an enforcement issue all on its own, is a property that's east of town here, adjacent to the highway. You probably know across from UFA, across from UFA, they have a lot of RVs and trailers and little, I don't know, huts and things that they are advertising on Airbnb, which is completely, that's just another enforcement that the town has to get on, because they've got, I would say, non-legal sheds and things with, maybe not the right windows and all the things, plus they're also registering on their websites that they have like campground spots and things like that, so there are a lot of other ones in the mix that maybe are skewing the numbers.
Yeah.
And there are some unidentified ones that Granicus still, has, but they are using Google Maps, they're using ArcGIS map, they're using their AI, of course, plus they have manpower on them as well. So that makes it easier to locate the actual residents. But there are still those that are unidentified, and we can go onto their site and try and look at the picture and see if we can locate, because we know our town, and I've done that before as well. So I would say that for the non-principals, that is very, I'd say 90%, 99% accurate. The other thing with Granicus is a lot of times with these sites that people advertise on, it's sometimes hard to understand if they're advertising the whole property, or if it's just a principal where it's in a room, because it might say entire, because they have the pictures, they have the actual ads that we can go on and open them up, and they might say, oh, entire home, but then it'll say, if you read down further, the people say, oh, it's a whole basement. It's not the entire suite, but it's in the basement. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of times in their Yeah, so when they're looking at, okay, what are these non-principal, that can skew it a little bit too, so I have to go deep in, I have to delve into it deeper to determine, okay, is this a non-principal? But I would say that we're pretty much accurate.
Great, thank you. I guess a quick follow-up, with these RV spots and being, is there not a criteria that Airbnb require that, like, are they legit in Airbnb? Cause they talk a lot about like Airbnb, that they monitor and they regulate, you know, who uses their site. So are Airbnbs allowed to be in RVs and shacks and things like that? Like, is that permittable?
Thank you,
that's like-
Chair, through to council. In my experience with seeing the RVs, they are allowing them in the hotels. Again, that's their regulations. We have heard that, some jurisdictions are going to, and I think Airbnb is one of them, one of the platforms, is that they're gonna be asking for people to submit their registration number with the municipality, whether it's business license number or whatever type of number they get, in order to register through their platform. That would be very helpful for the town if they couldn't register until they provide that number, so that automatically we know that they're compliant.
Yeah, so to the chair, to members of committee, just to add to that a little bit, so. RVs and even RV spots are allowed through the Airbnb platform, so they have a category called unique accommodations. I think they have all sorts of things that we as a municipality through our regulations, it wouldn't be allowed, like tree houses or yurts, or, well, there's all sorts of things, they're allowed through the platform, but not necessarily through our local bylaws.
Okay, thank you. Great, Councilor Chambers.
I just wanna say that this report was fascinating to me, and I was shocked at how much detail it went into. I think it was really valuable for my brain, I think, because when we're trying to go through and make those decisions, it's so hard to try to judge. Are we doing enough? Are we not doing enough? What are other people doing? And it's pretty clear that it is kind of all over the place, and it to me showed that, you know, we have taken a strong stand in the work that we've done so far. And I think that was our intent. So it's nice to see that, you know, comparatively, because you hear, you know, we're not doing enough, are we doing enough, are we doing too much? You kind of hear it from all angles. So it's nice to have this kind of snapshot to refer to say, okay, you know what, we are even, you know, maybe a little on the strong side, which I don't think is a bad thing, right? So I really appreciate it. I think it gave a lot more information than I was even expecting when it came up, and it's certainly made me feel like I have a better grasp on some of what's out there. I mean, it's kind of clear that there's not a one size fits all solution. There's lots of variety in the things there, but it certainly was a good long, but a good read to go through all of it and try to kind of understand a little bit better what, you know, some of the communities are doing, how they're facing it. So I thought it was really well done.
Thank you. Committee?
Yeah, through the chair to administration, have we had any enforcement fines issued?
Yes, thank you, Chair, through to committee. We had five or six, and two of them were able to be dismissed, and one they paid, and it was a non-principal. The other two have gotten their second notifications. And they're no longer advertising, so it makes it really tough. You know, we can prove, and we did prove in each letter, because we can go into the Brownfield site and we can actually take a snapshot of their last booking and everything, so you know, and how many nights and whether it was, a room or the whole house or whatever. But it's just, that's where we're at. It's kind of tough to chase them down, I guess.
So we've had 5 fines,
Yeah.
5 or 6 fines. A couple are getting second warnings, no response. One's paid. Did we get any new licensing because of the fine action?
We did, yes. Yes, we did. Principal, mostly principal residents though, not the nons, but we did get action for sure, because we like to reach out, before we get to that point, we like to first give them the opportunity with a phone call, you know, a letter or email, and, you know, to try to get in touch with them and talk to them first and explain to them that we're aware that they're advertising. Now, a couple of them that we've talked to, the one couple that we actually have, I guess, counseled, their concern was, I guess it's really difficult on the Airbnb website, once you have it registered, once you've registered on the site. Our understanding, it's difficult to take it off, so it's easier for people to, of course, turn off the calendar. And so that it's all grayed out, so you can't book it. But, you know, for us, we see that, well, it's still up on the site, yeah, you may not have it booked. But you're still advertising, and they're like, well, it's really, two people have now told us how difficult it is to take it off. So without me maybe contacting Airbnb, finding out more about that, those are things we've heard. Whether they're just saying that because they got caught, I don't know.
Thank you. I just have myself, just find it really interesting, the number of no's that don't have a specific bylaw, you know, especially the one that stands out for me is Canmore. Canmore has taken extremely, I thought, a pretty tough stance on Airbnbs in their community, but they have no bylaw that you know, on the record, so I find that very interesting. So, you know, I'm happy to see some of them have them, but even the fact that Calgary or Edmonton also have no bylaw, I just find it so interesting, the fact that Airbnbs are so they're considered a high risk to our housing, and just finding it shocking to see so few bylaws specific to them, that's all.
Through the chair, just to members of the committee, they don't have a specific a bylaw that actually regulates them, but that, for, at least in the case of Canmore, the only reason was because through their land use bylaw, they banned the pub right. So they do, they have taken a very hard stance on short-term rentals, but they don't necessarily regulate them just because they're banned outright.
Understood, okay, that makes sense, cause yeah, I thought they were pretty much non-existent over in areas that no one would ever have them in, so, but, okay, that makes sense, thank you. Committee, any other questions or comments on the non-principal report? Or any recommendations? Councilor Chambers.
I take the recommended action that committee direct administration to incorporate suggested revisions to the land use bylaw as outlined in this tech report, and return the bylaw to a future regular council meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Chambers. So that direction is the committee direct administration to incorporate suggested revisions to the land use bylaw as outlined in the Vista Tech report, return the bylaw to a future regular council meeting. Mayor Nissen.
Thank you. Through the chair to administration, since this would effectively be a change to land use bylaw, is there any statutory requirements for public hearing or anything else like that?
Yes, thank you for the committee. Yes, it is a land use bylaw amendment, so there definitely would be a public hearing. And the other option we looked at was that because it's not so substantive, that we could, option two, that we could maybe bring this, we could hold off on this amendment until I have another amendment for the LUV. That could be a second option, so it's not coming back right away, but just because it's more, I guess it's just more non-substantive in the way that it's not affecting any of the land use districts. It's more or less just updating some glossary and some definitions. It's
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Mayor Nissen. Mayor Nissen?
Oh,
Thank you. Yep.
Well, through the chair to the committee, I'll support the motion on the floor. I was initially thinking that I might wanna see the revised bylaw actually come back to committee, so I could read it before it goes to the council, or we could make the decision, but knowing that it has to go to a public hearing, we can only do first reading in council. I'm comfortable that we can read it in council. We're not making a decision in the same day or kick it back. So I'll support this as it's put in form. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anderson. Committee, any other comments or questions on the direction? I guess I'm just a little, for myself, a little torn between, going through a public hearing and hearing that it's really not gonna change anything, to the bylaw itself, other than, like you said, glossary things and definitions, so. Knowing that we probably have some other changes to the land use bylaw coming up, is that fair to say? We do. I'm not sure if because that could be included in that then public hearing, if with all the changes that would be coming to the land use bylaw, that would include this. And whatever else the administration brings, because they wouldn't be separate public hearings, would they?
No.
No. So I'm kind of the mind of not in favor of this going to a future regular meeting right away. I'm more of going along the lines of the option two and waiting until we have more land use bylaw amendments to make and lump them all together, being as how it is quite extensive, instead of having two public hearings, having one. But I don't know what the rest of the council thinks, but I'm very kind of leaning towards the council chambers and council members.
Would we be expecting, sorry, to administration to the chair, would we be expecting this, like, within this term of council, that there'll be changes to the land use bylaw? Yes, again, yes.
Madison?
So through the chair to committee, and to Councillor Haas's point. This could come back with other changes to land use bylaw, one public hearing, no big deal. But with the motion as it is right now, I believe this gives the power to the agenda prep committee to determine when this comes back. We've not put a timeline to it. And if agenda prep were to feel that, yeah, there's gonna be more land use amendments, land use bylaw amendments coming forward, let's put that off. This motion allows the agenda prep committee to determine when this is the right time for it to come back. I don't see it, really don't see any reason to delay it, and to be completely honest, I'd be worried about the public hearing on this set of changes. It probably wouldn't be well attended or particularly well submitted to, so it is relatively benign, routine things, but it does clean up our bylaw quite nice, and I would like to continue moving the process forward, so thank you. That'll be it for me on this one.
Okay, thank you. Committee? Seeing nothing further, then we're gonna call the question that committee direct administration to incorporate suggested revisions to the land use bylaw as outlined in the ISTEC report and return the bylaw to a future regular meeting of council. Please vote now. That is carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, administration. That concludes our reports from administration. Moving on to our correspondence. We have a letter from our deputy commissioner, Randy Officer of Alberta, RCMP, and a letter from HELP as well, letter to Vincent Council. Committee. Any discussion or questions on the correspondence or any direction? Patrick?
I'd like to see consensus that committee accept the correspondence items for information, please.
Thank you, Councilor Stashik. Committee, we have a direction to accept the correspondence for information. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, then we will call that to question. Please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to our reporting, and we will start off with Councilor Stashik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I have nothing.
Okay. Councilor Chambers?
Thank you. I was able to attend the Hinton Historical Society meeting last week. We passed our budget. Got some updates on their very busy summer, some of the, different events that they have. I know they were participating out in Cadogan over the weekend. At some events, and they've got their summer students well underway. Some good programming, so working away on that, and, that's all I have to report.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Chambers. Mayor Nissen?
Thank you. Through the chair to committee, last Wednesday, I attended the virtual engagement session for elected representatives on the police funding model review. It was not an information session for elected representatives, it was an opportunity for us to speak with consultants on the file, and I did not find it particularly informative or helpful, and I have nothing further to pass on, unfortunately. On Thursday, the Chamber of Commerce put on a meeting with MPs William Stevenson and Garrett Genius about the job situation. Specifically around finding labor mobility, training, those kinds of things. They're interested in how we can improve getting the right tradespeople into the positions that are vacant in the community. It was an interesting discussion, and hearing from a lot of our big employers that trade specific qualified people are hard to find, and housing is a big hurdle because of that. It's they're finding qualified people that want to come out, and they look for housing and they can't find anywhere to live. And on Friday, I had the great honor of opening the Hinton Minor basketball provincials. This is the second year in a row that Hinton Minor baseball has been asked to host provincials. It was the 13UA provincials. And I wanted to pass on to the committee some of the feedback that I got on the sports field specifically. So this year we started spraying for the first time selectively on the sports fields. And there's a noticeable difference this year in the quality of the grass and the safety of those fields. I would say that hopefully we see it continue to improve next year, but night and day difference from what we were doing last year, and the sports teams have mentioned it. And then the shale at the ball diamonds. I saw prior to this tournament, we had piles of shale out there, we had municipal crews out at the ball diamonds, looked great, they were in great shape. And the city crews, the municipal staff that we hired to take care of that, they were grading the shale in between all of the games. The teams were extraordinarily happy, so we're headed in the right direction with those sports fields, and I just wanted to pass that feedback on to council because I think it's important. And that's all I have this week. Thank you.
Councilor Session?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add some of the comments that Mayor Nissen just made. I was down for a couple games too, and I got some feedback from visitors from out of town. And it was very positive feedback. Some of the feedback I got was conditions of the washrooms. They were very impressed by how clean and what stocked the washrooms were. The conditions of the ball fields, I got the same feedback as Mayor Nissen. The conditions of them, especially considering all the rain that we got, they were in remarkably good condition. Part of that is due to some donated equipment. There were literally vacuum trucks out there vacuuming up. But in addition to that, the work that the town put in, the fields were in great condition. And on top of that, I just wanted to report to you that the Hinton team won the tournament. So the Hinton Rockies are the U13A Tier 3 provincial champions.
That's,
Thank you. I have nothing to report, but I definitely echo, not only the weed spraying for that area, but our entire town looks so much more cleaner now. And the comments that I've been getting, I know that there was some feedback and concerns, but the comments that I've been getting, over the last few years, we've got there's nothing but dandelions and everything, but now looking, I don't see a dandelion in sight, to be honest with you, and it's just really nice to see grass instead of weeds. So I really appreciate, administration working on that, and and I'm looking forward to the future years, because I realize, this is not something that's gonna have to happen all the time, but it's definitely gotta get things under control and it's working, so I really appreciate that as well, so. Yeah, and I did too see some Facebook messages of people pushing water off of the diamonds so they could play, so it was some substantial rain, so excellent. Yeah, the only thing I do have to report, I did also attend the police funding, found it very it was a waste of time, to be honest with you, because I think that it really. Because if I can clarify with administration, do we receive anything from the province in regards to police funding?
Through the chair and members of the committee, there are provincial members. But our police funding agreement is an agreement with the federal government that we pay 70% if that's paid 30%.
Right.
But there are provincial members also in our detachment.
And to clarify though, because my understanding going to that was, it really targeted the communities under 5,000. Because my understanding is that the province was picking up some of the costs, you know, because it was such a large cost to the communities under 5,000. Is that how it's working? Because we're not experiencing anything that a lot of them talked about, so.
No, through the chair, how that happened is, previously all communities under 5,000, urban or rural, they didn't pay anything for policing. That was something that was covered solely by the provincial government. And this was a couple of years ago, I believe about probably three, maybe 4 years ago, actually, when they implemented a new system where they required all of these communities under 5,000 to pay. I believe it's 35%. There was a ladder, but I believe now they're paying 35% of policing costs, where before they paid zero. So that was a downloaded cost a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and that's what, because we're coming up on the 5th year is what my understanding was, and they were wondering if this is working, and I'm listening to it, I'm like. We don't get any of that, you know, so it's really targeted the smaller communities. It just, however, was very interesting, even though I have to mention that even though the intent was to get feedback on the funding model. It couldn't help but get, everyone went to provincial, and why are we going for provincial policing? And they were like, it seemed to be the group I was in, well, I was in a previous group and then moved to another, and it was the same conversation. Even though they wanted to talk about funding, they just, you know, everybody's saying, I don't understand why this provincial policing, but anyway, it's interesting to hear that, so. Councilor Chambers.
Sorry, just on another note, I was able to, it's not a committee, but I was able to attend the Wild Mountain Music Festival this weekend. And was a wet, maybe one of the wettest ones I've ever been to. Kids were running around, floating around on floaties and puddles, and they had to put out pallets like little rig mats to get people across, but it was only one band wasn't able to play, and as always, it was a fabulous outpouring of support from local volunteers, many of them obviously from town. It was a really well put together event, very well attended. Lots of people hiding out under their awnings, certainly for a lot of it, but it was really good and always to see that level of engagement from all of our local community members, and then as well as the Entrance Ranch for hosting that event and willing to allow everyone to continue to participate on that land. Is wonderful place to be and a really good event for the community. So it was very, very well done as always, and was enjoyable despite the rain.
Sure, the tow truck drivers need to go out there and pull out their RVs and because it would definitely rut up that place, I'm sure, so. Excellent, all right, thank you, everybody. CEO Panasic, anything to report or status?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to report, but we did include our council action pending report, so if there's any questions on that report or anything else, I'll be happy to.
Okay, committee, taking a look at the action pending, is there any questions for administration? Then seeing none, then we will move to our closed session with 2 items there. If I could have a motion, please. Mayor Nissen.
Moving to close before we're in here.
Perfect, thank you, Mayor Nissen. And yeah, we move into closed session, we'll call the question, please vote no. No. 449. Sure.
You can get it right. What? Yeah, you can get it right.
Excellent, okay, you could please vote.